how to change the kernel. So as you see it on your screen now, that I have Xenialpup configured to my liking, and however, on my laptop here, the Wi-Fi is intermittent. Right now it's connected, but frequently it goes out, and then I have to reconnect, and it's a problem. So I want to show you briefly. We'll go ahead and start the console, and then right now I have a uname -r will give you a kernel number 4495. So that's the kernel that comes with a Xenialpup 32-bit machine. And when we take a look at closely to way it's configured, these are let me just show you partition. So this is SDB1, which is my USB, and this has a first partition has a 3 programs that I can start when I boot. I can, right now obviously I'm in Xenialpup 32, but I can also start the Slacko 32 or FossaPup 64. This is a 64 machine, but I prefer to run 32-bit operating system, and it only has 4 gigs of RAM. Anyway, going back to taking a look at the XP bootable partition folder, we can see that there is a 5 files, and let me just show you on a Xenialpup disk. Installation disk comes with a kernel and so on that I put in. I copied, and to use it as a starting bootable Xenialpup. This is a frugal installation. So what you really need to start get the frugal installation partition ready is you need all the SFS files from the ISO. So there are 3, 1, 2, 3, and you also need 2 additional files, which is VMLLuns. This is the primary kernel, and you also need a init.rd here. So you simply just drag this over here, and that's what I've done. So you can see that there is 5 files I put in here, and then make sure it boots into Xenialpup, and you get this. So this obviously is after configuration. So now what I found out is that when I started and booted into Slacko 7.0, the Wi-Fi is very reliable, and it's so what I wanted to do is put in Slacko 7.0 ISO, which is this here, and then take a look at this. So within it, so we'll go ahead and within it you have obviously SFS files like before, and you also have VMLLuns and init.rd. So, but to change the kernel only, what you need is the VMLLuns and also drivers. So you can look at the SFS drivers. So there's a ZDR driver, so there's a ZDRB, and there's a extra SFS file with DRB, which I also need to transfer copy to the Xenialpup to upgrade the full driver and firmware and the kernel. So you can't just transfer a copy here and expect everything to work, because Xenialpup only will recognize the files that has this particular format Xenialpup in the midst of it. So first, what we need to do is change the kernel. So this is the kernel of the Xenialpup, but we need to put in the kernel of the Slacko. So what we can do is just rename this, just in case there's something doesn't go right with the kernel change. So we'll go ahead and we'll make it a as a backup. So we'll go ahead and change it to BAK, and we'll go ahead and drag this over here and just copy it. Simply copy it over here. So now it has a Slacko kernel in Xenialpup. Likewise, we're gonna do that with drivers. So we'll go ahead and put this over here and then copy it. But now it's a Slacko. What we need to do is change to Xenialpup. So we can see that there is that file right here, but we want that to be renamed just in case there's we need to revert back later. So what we can do is just rename it, and let me just make it all the way down, and then we'll rename it BAK. Okay, now what we need to do is we also need to rename Slacko DRV to Xenialpup. So we'll go ahead and rename that. So you gotta be very careful here and don't make a mistake. So there's a SFS file. What we need to do is just do exactly same as here. So Xenialpup underline 7.5, and then you have to make sure that there's a period. So now we have it renamed. Most of the time when you change kernel, that's all you need to do. But in this case, with a Slacko, there is an extra file that's not in the original Xenialpup. So what we also need to do is, this is actually further drivers in here and firmware. So we'll go ahead and drag this over here and then copy it into the Xenial folder. And also we need to rename this again into Xenialpup. Xenialpup underline 7.5, and make sure there's a period and this rename. Okay, so now we're pretty much ready to reboot. We have a backup here and here just in case something goes wrong, but otherwise it should reboot fine into the new with a new kernel, and then restart the screen recording again. And first thing we'll do is we'll check the kernel version. So uname /r-r, and they give you 249. You may not recall, but when we initially, before we changed, it was 4495. So actually we're using older kernel, but Wi-Fi is much more reliable and works. It connects very quickly on boot. So I resolved my problem, at least Wi-Fi is concerned. So that's how you really change the kernel. But what if you don't have a ISO that of the another PuppyLinux that tells you that the Wi-Fi is much more reliable? What you can do is go to a PuppyLinux discussion forum, and under board index, advanced topics, additional software, and under kernels, there's a lot more information about recent kernels that's been developed, and also archive kernels. So you can see many kernels that's been listed. So like here. So what you need to do is either what I would recommend is you may want to just look at some of the more recent developed kernels, and then you try this exactly the same steps that I've done. There is also a program that changes the kernels automatically, but I find for learning this my manual way is much more reliable, and it also does not take into account of FDRV files. Um, so I think that's about it. So this is how you change kernels in PuppyLinux, usually for better hardware support. But in my case,